Hey, how's it going? So last night on stream, I told a story about the first time I had ever made my own edibles. I gotta be very, I gotta be very quiet. I don't even know if this is a microphone. But while I told that story, I was stupidly high. So as my early Christmas present to you guys, I decided to edit down that story into a more watchable format. Mainly, I just want to edit out all the parts where I'm just like, uh. So yeah, enjoy. And Merry Christmas to you and your homes. And I just got to say for legal reasons, don't try this at home. Do not do what I did today. It won't end well for you. Okay, thank you.
I might as well take this opportunity to tell you guys about a story that I did. This was the first time I ever made edibles. Not these cookies, by the way. This is a little bit before I made the cookies. So, it was about a month and a half ago, and the only edibles I've ever had are those little gummies that you get from, the ones I'm talking about. And I got them from a really shady website, by the way. They didn't even card me for them, so who knows what was in those. About a month and a half ago, I decided that instead of buying them this time, I would just make my own. It combines my two favorite hobbies, both of which are baking. So I went I went online to find like a reputable weed seller that wasn't too expensive. I ended up finding this ad on Twitter. It said you get an ounce of weed for $50. That sounds legit. So I go on their website, I scroll through their listings, and I find a strand that looks okay, Not great, but okay. And I buy it, so the price included with shipping was only about $60. That's a great price for what I hope is actual weed. So I ordered it on November 4th, flash forward to November 11th. I wake up and I check the tracking number for it. I see that my package is in a Binghamton mail facility. Well, that's great. That's only like a 10-minute drive away. Why isn't it being delivered today? Is what I wondered. That's when I realized it's November 11th. Ew, gross. Okay, we're good. It's November 11th. That's Veterans Day or Memorial Day. I don't really remember, but it was one of those military holidays where they don't deliver mail. So my weed wasn't going to be delivered until the 12th, okay? But problem, the 11th was my only day off for like the next week. If I didn't make them today, I wouldn't be able to make them for another week until the next Tuesday. And I have ADHD. I cannot handle waiting for anything. It's just gonna escape my mind like a fly that's currently buzzing around my head. Instead of practicing self-control and waiting, I decided I was gonna go use all the cash I had to go buy some weed from a local dispensary. I go onto Weed Maps. I look up just what's the closest dispensary to me. I find this place called Greenlight Dispensary. Great place, really it is. I search through their offerings, and the only thing that I can actually afford at this dispensary is half an ounce of like a 30% strain, which was $80. And with taxes, it was like 90 for half an ounce. God, I had no idea how expensive weed was. So I spent like 10, 15 minutes mulling it over. I had $100 in cash on me because one of my friends had recently paid me back some money that they owed me. So I had $100 on me. I could go get it, but I really didn't know if I wanted to. Eventually, I decided that it would probably be worth it one way or another. I placed the order for pickup, and then I have to make it to the dispensary. Now, the dispensary is like 20-minute walk away from my place. I could easily do that. That's no problem. The problem was that it was the middle of November. So it was like 30 degrees outside. It was fucking frigid. I had a bunch of cash on me. I had nothing on my card. And what little I did have on my card, I really needed to save to get to work. So I just had to be strong and I had to be mentally prepared for the cold. I just had to brace it. I just had to deal with it. And I could not get an Uber no matter how much I wanted to. So I put on my coat. I put on another jacket. I put on my pants and my shoes and everything. I take one step outside. I immediately turn around and order an Uber. Yeah, I have no self-control. So the thing is, it was only like a $10 Uber up there, so that actually wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I don't know if the lady who dropped me off at the dispensary realized that she was dropping me off at a dispensary or not, because she was like this old Christian white lady, you know the kind, and she had to take me all the way up to a dispensary. I don't know if she knew about it. She definitely didn't comment on it, but I think it would have been really funny if she did. Anyway, we get up to the street where the dispensary's on. And the thing about this street is that there's actually two smoke shops on the same street. One of them was the Green Light Dispensary, which was the one that I needed to go to. The other one was just called Smoke Shop, and that's the one that she dropped me off at. And I didn't realize that that was the wrong one, because I go inside this one. I go up to the guy at the register, and I tell him I'm picking up an order for Robin Merritt. And he's like, "We don't do orders, bro." So, I immediately realize I'm in the wrong place. Turns out the right place is like a 10-minute walk down that way, so I have to go there. Eventually, I make it to the Green Light Dispensary. I don't know what I was expecting going into it. I thought it was gonna be like the last place, just like a regular smoke shop that you could just walk into, see all the things laid out for you, and then bring it to the guy who's running the register. That is not what I ended up with. What I saw was just like a tiny closet-sized room with just one guy at a desk on his phone and like a locked door on the other side. So I go into this dispensary. I'm really thrown off by how it doesn't look like a dispensary. I'm like, am I in the wrong spot again? I have no idea. But I go up to the guy, and he asks me, when I go up to the guy, he asks me, "Hey, are you just shopping, or are you picking up an order?" So yeah, I'm in the right spot. I tell him, "Yeah, picking up an order for Robin Merritt." He says, "Okay," and then he goes over to the door and he unlocks it for me, and I go inside. Now, if you've been paying close attention, and you know how a dispensary works, you'll know that he skipped a fairly important step. He did not ask for my ID. Again, I don't know. At the time, I thought, oh, he's not going to ask me for my ID. They're going to ask me for my ID when I get to the cash register. So he opens the door, does not check my ID, and he lets me into the smoke shop. And it looked like what I was expecting. All the like bongs and stuff, all the pipes. Everything was laid out. The weed was in like another room that customers weren't allowed to get into, which makes sense, Yeah, when I went into the thing, it was fucking packed. 11 a.m. on Veterans Day, and it was packed. I go up to the lady on the cash register, and I tell her I'm picking up an order for Robin. And she says, "Okay," and she just types in all the things. And then after a minute of typing, she just looks up to me and she says, "My computer's broken." Which is the worst thing when you're trying to shop for something. I imagine it's terrible for the retail workers, but at least they know how to deal with it. I don't know how to deal with just having to wait for them to fix their computer. So her computer's broken. She has to go to the next computer over, kick that person off their computer, and log into it then. And then when she does that, she looks up at me again and says, "This one's broken too." God damn it. I can't get a win today. We go over to a third person's computer, And this guy says it's not the computer, it's your login. So he logs in with his own things, and thank God it worked. I don't know what we were going to do if his computer was broken as well, but thank God it worked. So he punches up the order. I hand him the $90 in cash because, weed is expensive. He goes over to like a little window. He literally knocked a secret code on the door, which is just, or maybe he was just being funny, I don't know, but it just like, he opens the window, he takes my weed, and he gives it to me. It is so much smaller than I was expecting. Like, I get that it's like dried leaves and everything, but that is just pathetic. You'll notice what they didn't do again. They did not ask for my ID again. What is going on? I don't know if they just thought I was definitely old enough or if they just didn't care. I mean, it was a holiday, so this is all just set up for me making the brownies, by the way. I haven't even started making the brownies. So I start going home. This time, though, I make sure that I force myself to walk home. Again, it only took 20 minutes, but it was so cold. It was so cold. God, walking home was miserable. But I finally make it home, and thus, Act 1 of this story is over. Now we can move on to Act 2, me making the brownies. So, when I got the weed, I didn't really know how to make them into edibles. And I didn't want to fuck it up either. So I looked up a bunch of tutorials. And by the way, it's really fun that you just look up tutorials on how to make weed brownies nowadays. You don't have to ask around. You don't have to make shit up. No, you can just figure it out. So I look up a tutorial after I get the things home. It tells me that I have to heat the buds for like several hours, and then I have to infuse them into the butter for several more hours. Now, I didn't want to do this downstairs, because that's where all the people live. And I don't want to, I didn't really care if they knew I smoked or if they knew that I was making these. All I cared about was just not bothering them with it. So I decided to buy a hot plate and, like one of those things you'd find in the college dorms. Like, it's not a real stove. Yeah, I bought one of those. And I took a pot, and I took the pot, I filled it with water. I take the buds, I put them into a plastic bag, and then I take that bag, put it into the boiling water for like, I should not be giving you instructions on how to make them. I should definitely not be doing that. You boil them for an hour and a half. Then you move them into a new pot with some melted butter in it, and you boil that for like 3 to 4 hours. I didn't realize it would take that long when I set it up. So now I have this bag of weed now, so I have to do it now. I had other plans for that day, but, this was going to be an all-day event. So I didn't even have a way to grind up the buds, so I just had to take a knife to them with a cutting board. Thank God I work in the kitchen so I could get my, knife skills down. So I finally get the buds cut up, and they're finally in the water. Now comes the hour and a half long waiting process. And I don't know if it works this way or not, but I felt like the steam that was coming out of the weed, that was getting me high. I feel like just a little bit. I don't know if that's true or not. It's in the pot for an hour and a half. I'm splitting my time between downstairs, just doing things like doing laundry and shit, to upstairs checking on that like every 5 minutes or so. Eventually, the first step is done. So then I can take those out. I can melt the cup of butter that I'm going to use it in. So here's the part where I sort of messed up. Mistake number 1, if you will. I took a cup of butter and I took half an ounce of 30% strain. That's too much. That's about 4,000 milligrams of THC. Yeah. And even at like an 80% infusion rate, that's still like 3,500. That is so much for a cup of butter. So mistake number one, I over-infused. I put too much of it into too little butter. After another 3 or 4 hours of waiting, the butter is finally done, so I can finally use it. I use a cheesecloth to get the buds out of the butter, and now I finally have the butter. So I go downstairs and I start making the brownies. The problem, though, is that when I make anything, when I make any kind of baked good, all my roommates want some. But of course, I can't give them some of this because that would probably kill them. So before I make my batch, I have to make them their batch. And I end up using most of my ingredients on their batch. So I barely had anything left over for my batch, which didn't really matter. My batch didn't need to taste great. It just needed to be a thing. It just needed to be, you know? So I finish their batch. I let them have that. I start on my batch. As soon as I start on my batch, one of my roommates comes into the kitchen and says, "Yo, it smells like weed in here." Like, god damn it. God damn it. I know I said I was okay with them knowing, but I really wasn't. I immediately panic and be like, what? And he's like, "I'm just kidding, bro. It's like, I don't know." So, thank God. Thank God I made it out of there. So, I get to finally make the brownies. Now, here's mistake number 2. I used a full cup of this butter that I made, which I wasn't supposed to do because that meant that this one batch of brownies would have about 4,000 milligrams of THC in it. That's 160 milligrams of THC per brownie. Per brownie. 160 per brownie. This big of a brownie, like that little tiny brownie, 160 milligrams. Which that is about 4 times more than I had ever taken at that point. But I don't realize this until after I've actually taken one. By the way, we're on Act 3 of the story now. This is a 3-act story. We did the getting the weed, we did the making the brownies, now we're on actually eating them. Act 3. Brownies are finally done. They're cooled. I have them cut into 24 pieces. Now I take one of the brownies. By the way, I picked like the smallest corner piece possible, just in case, just in case it was too much for me. But I took that one brownie, which I thought would be fine, and then I ate it. Thankfully, I left a note on the brownie tray that said, "Do not take more until like an hour and a half or whatever." That was just so that I didn't think. That's just so I didn't do the classic "these edibles ain't shit" and then ended up dying. So, thank God I did that. That still didn't help the fact that I did one at all. So, I eat the brownie, and for like the first half an hour, I don't feel anything. And now I'm thinking, did I screw it up at some point? After about an hour had passed, everything. Just immediate wave. It's like the entire planet is sitting on me. I can't breathe. I can't think straight. It was by far one of the scariest experiences I've ever had while high. So I'm just sitting there. It felt like hours, but it was only like 10 minutes. Whenever I get high, I usually I just lay on my bed eating snacks and watching YouTube videos. But I couldn't even do that because my vision was too bouncy blurry. My vision is just shifting all over the place. I'm getting like After Effects. It feels like I'm falling into the bed instead of just like sinking into it, like what I'm used to. It is so terrible. It's so terrible for like an hour. Then I calmed down and it was like, okay, I could probably do this. So that's when it really got to like the classic fun high that I was used to. Here's the thing about edibles though. The more of it you take, the longer it lasts. That's like the big problem, you know. If you take that much at once, it's gonna stick with you. Like I went to bed high, obviously, but I woke up extremely high as well. I ate the brownie at 7 o'clock at night. It first hit at 8:30. I stayed awake until like 11:30, 11:45 that night. But the problem, mistake number three, is that I had to open at work tomorrow, which meant I had to be up by 4:30 in the morning. And that didn't even cross my mind until I was like 5 seconds away from sleeping. I was like, oh shit, wait. I wake up at 4:30. Thankfully my alarms actually go off this time. I wake up at 4:30. I am still just as high as I was when I went to bed. I had to like, as I was getting dressed for work in like half darkness, I I God, I I could barely, I almost fell over like twice. Everything was just shaking. It was a nightmare. And then because the buses don't run that early, so I had to get another Uber into work. And of course, it was still just as cold as it was earlier. So standing out there waiting for my Uber to get there while high as fuck and just regretting my life choices. I think that's my lowest point. Oh, but it does get funny though, because by the time I actually get to work, I am fucking sloshed. I can't do it. I go up to my manager and I'm not trying to leave or anything. I just want to let him know the problem. So I tell him like a very abridged version of that story, and he was cool with it. It wasn't even one of the managers, it was a shift leader, but he was cool with it. So he just like, yeah, come on in. Don't worry. We've all been there. And then he asked me for one of the brownies when I left. Uh, thankfully, I got rid of those. I gave them out to all my friends, so they're not in here. Otherwise, I probably would have done them instead of the cookies, to be honest. God, talking for that long really tires you out, especially when you're high.
Hey, thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you want to watch me stream this stuff live, you can go over to my main channel. Put it right here. Or put it in the description. I don't know. I don't want you to take away any anti-weed sentiment from this, because I think it's perfectly healthy to use safely. I did not use it safely this evening. So make sure that you actually practice some safety, and that you don't fall into the sunken place like I did. Oh, if you're wondering why my hair looks so stupid, it's because I'm stupid and thought it would be a good idea to cut it myself. Alright, thank you. Goodbye.